3. It just premiered. And again, if you're watching The Outstanding Artist like a talent show, then I think that you're maybe watching it wrong. And specifically, this episode, I think, really highlighted something interesting, that it's not just like what happened in the cityscapes or even the abstract landscapes, but what's happening between the brushstrokes and maybe even between the competitions when the artist steps back from the canvas and they look around and they look at everyone else's creations, and we last week we talked about what happens, the voices in your head, comparison, ranking, self-doubt. But in episode 3, something new entered the studio, which is outside voices. One of the artists got teased about her source, Alexis. Another started questioning if she even had imagination, Stephanie. Uh, and Jody literally asked her parents to pray for her, and they did, which is awesome. And then there's a question also hanging over this episode. Did someone break the rules? So today we're going to unpack what really happened, and why part of becoming an outstanding artist is learning how to develop thick skin. So I'm your host, Jake Dunn, and with me we have Tanya Obu, one of the judges, Bianca Lever, sorry, and Stephanie Linden. So we're gonna talk about some of the inside scoop of what happened in episode 3 specifically, without giving any spoilers, or at least trying to give any
We have to
spoilers.
be careful here.
Yeah, have to be
It's
very careful.
it's hard.
But okay, so before we dive into the juicy juice, uh, all of you have experienced the outstanding artist from the inside, obviously, and Tanya as a season 3 contestant. And so I just wanted to ask, like, what is one thing that you guys learned about yourselves? You learned about yourself as an artist while competing on the show. I'm just curious. Tanya, do you want to go first?
Oh yeah, I mean, being on the Outstanding Artist taught me that I was much more confident with myself than I thought. Like I feel like when I was on the show, I was able to be like, and I know we're probably going to talk about that, but receiving feedback and how you receive it, impacts you in the long term of the competition. And I discovered that I was, really confident about myself, trusting my own choice, with my art, my style. And I really wanted to do that, to stay myself, stay true to my authentic voice, even in this show, where I had to do different things, of course, get out of my comfort zone. But I discovered that I had this force in me, of saying, no, I accept your feedback, but I don't really want to listen to it. So that made me really much more confident about who I am as an artist. And I think that's the biggest thing I got from the show. And also how resilient I am to, because I had to, get back on the show at one point, and it was such a funny experience. But like, I was eliminated and then got back on the show, and so I was able to prove myself that, man, I'm able to tackle those challenge and do it alone, still in the field, with you, Jake. That was spraying water on me. But anyway, I think it taught me so much about, the artist I am, the person I am, and when I have my eyes that on a goal, I can really do it, and the way I want to, and staying authentic, really. I don't know if the whole makes sense, but to me, it was really something I got from the show for sure.
That's so good. Yeah, it's so important to learn the skill of like receiving feedback and listening to critique without having to feel like you have to implement all of it.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
skill of discernment. And I feel like, and the outstanding artist is such an excellent way to get that, like, in a very condensed amount of time. Uh,
And
like
it's
just
challenging. It's challenging. I'm not saying it's like, because when Ellie or John or Dimitra were giving me feedback, I was always, okay, I probably need to listen to them. But then in the end, it's you and your painting and what you want to do and what you want to express. So you still kind of have to follow that a little bit, if you don't want to lose yourself completely. So
Yeah.
This taught me that for sure.
Stephanie, Bianca, what's something that you guys learned about yourselves while you were on the show?
For me personally, I think I learned to just trust myself. And I know I talked a lot about like, oh, I'm a realist painter. I can't do abstract. I lack imagination. And I've come to realize that maybe that's true in a way, but it's not a bad thing. And so I really came, and I'm still for anybody out there that's like, I can't find my voice. I'm still sort of figuring out where I'm going with that. But I realized like what my fortes are, and instead of being like, oh, it's not good enough, it's not as good as anybody else's because I'm just a realist and I don't have an imagination. I see where my imagination is. I imagine the colors. I imagine the light brighter than it is. And so learning to trust myself and just, and I don't want my art to be like everyone else's. So why would I want to, embody something that I'm not? And so I'm so sorry. They need to get into the gallery.
Oh,
Brandon's
that's
here
okay.
with the camera, and I have to go and lock the door. So sorry.
It's okay.
So anyway, that's
Yeah.
basically.
That's good. I want to unpack the imagination part of that and, talk more about your, um, idea that you don't have an imagination or your imagination isn't as strong. But what about you, Bianca? What something that you learned about yourself?
Well, partly the same as what Stephanie was talking about,
Okay, sorry.
learning to trust yourself and to be less critical, which maybe sound weird, like you're competing and you're in a competition. And to me, it helped being less critical of myself somehow,
Mm.
because I was like, you're doing the best you can, and with all the skills you have and everything you bring with you, and you're proud of what you're making, and it's all good, no matter the outcome. As long as you feel good about yourself, you did the best you could or whatever. Um, yeah, so it made me less critical. Before I went to the outstanding artist, I had major imposter syndrome. I was like, oh no, everybody will see I cannot paint at all, and I'm a lousy artist, and all those things that a lot of us struggled with. So beforehand, I was so nervous. I even lost a lot of weight because I couldn't eat anymore. So nervous, which
No.
is crazy, because if I see myself back in the show, there's nothing left of that, and there was nothing left of it. It was crazy once I was there, and it was just, we had such a great time, and I wasn't so critical on myself. I was happy with myself and with everybody, and it was just like, well, I can't say one big party, that's exaggerated, but we had such an amazing, great time with each other. And it was, I would not have missed it for anything in the world. It was, I would do it again tomorrow in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a party at at times, and then it
At
wasn't
times.
a party at other times.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
I don't know how many times you said that.
I know I had the editors cut
And
it. I
then,
was like,
uh,
guys,
uh,
if I laugh at my own jokes too much, please cut it. We actually, I'm okay. I have a moment of truth here. There's a moment, gosh, I can't remember. Did it already happen or has it not happened yet? It's so hard to keep track, but I think it already happened. There was a moment where I made a joke and I thought it was funny, but I laughed too soon at my own jokes. I was like, guys, what if we cut me laughing? We cut to people. It's like the magic of editing. That's all I'll say. And it landed a lot better. Anyways, okay. What is it that makes it so that you come into, because each of you kind of talked about, it seems like there's this common thread of believing in yourself, having that self belief, having that confidence in your own abilities, whether that's overcoming imposter syndrome or, looking up to the people who are, giving you the critique and feedback, or understanding your own limitations, right? What is it that I think that trying to phrase this question that makes it so intense for you guys in this, or made it so intense for you guys in this challenge? I'm curious, like individually, what were the things that and let's start with maybe Bianca. What made it feel like so much pressure going into it?
For this specific challenge, you mean?
Yeah, in the show in general. Yeah.
Oh, in the show in general. Well,
Like you said, you lost weight going into it, not being able to eat. That's a big deal. I kind of smile and laugh about it, but that's like a lot of stress to have,
I know. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. It was crazy, but it touched so many boxes from my not so great childhood. So it was a great thing. I mean, I went to talk with a private coach even beforehand because it was impossible. I couldn't, it was crazy. I was like, what's happening here? And then I had some therapy with a personal coach, and that was very valuable to me. It was a big shift for me what happened, because there was still some stuff I had to clean up from my youth, and it's crazy that this triggered it all. And I have a great personal coach that I can talk to in situations like this, and she just helped me through it and to deal with it. So yeah.
Why did you ultimately want to go? Like why not back out if it was causing those triggers, if it was touching those really?
No, no.
Yeah.
That was not an option. No, 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 no. That was never an option. No. It was too big of an adventure and too big of a challenge. And it was just so exciting. And I really, really wanted to do it. There was
Yeah.
no possible. So, no, whatever. I would never have said no.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, so on the one hand, you have this like insane stress and pressure and, childhood trauma, past experiences that you're dealing with and overcoming that is triggering. But on the other hand, you have this call to adventure and,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
understand.
Yeah. It's because well, like I said earlier, it's a once in a lifetime experience to do something like this. Whenever are you gonna experience something like this again in your life? Never. It's very
Yeah.
special to be part of something like this. And no, I didn't regret it for a second. And I mean, it was great in hindsight because I got to clean up a lot of shit from the from it was a good thing. It was still there. I had to get rid of it. So you guys helped me with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we got to clean that shit out.
Me too.
What about yeah. What about you, Stephanie?
Tell me the question again, just so I want to make sure I'm specifically answering.
Yeah,
Because I got so
what is
involved
it
in her
about-
answer that.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. It's a long question. Actually, let's shift focus real quick. I want to talk about your belief that you don't have a very good imagination. Could you just like explain that a little bit more in depth?
Sure. I think when I was younger, I fell into this fallacy of thinking like, you should just paint from your imagination. That's only, like real art. You shouldn't. And I think a lot of people think that. Like, people are always surprised now when I'm painting live and they're like, oh, you're looking at a picture? I'm like, well, in actuality, most artists, unless you're completely abstract, use a source. But that was when I was younger, that was sort of, and so I as Haley said, Bopa said, the abstraction is the highest art form because, it really requires you to know all of the elements of art. And I think I still have that in my head. And I can't tell you how many times I've been told and sort of like, oh, you're just very, I think people use the word illustrative in the incorrect sense. I took an art class once and said, you're just very illustrative. And I'm like, I'm not illustrative, I'm realistic. There's a difference. But just sort of like, okay, your art is lesser because you're just a copy machine. Why don't you just take a photograph? And so I think I sort of carried that baggage with me. And then going into a competition where I know there's so many people that do abstract realism so well, and it's not my forte. And so I actually felt more confident about the first half because I knew it was going to be based on the lessons. And yes, we were going to have the abstract landscape and we're going to have a pure abstract, but I thought, well, at least with that, but but it was, it's sort of that feeling, I guess, that I just carried with me, and trying to figure out, okay, within realism, there are ways that, I push an edge, I change up something where it's expressionistic, even though maybe my brushwork is not as expressive.
That's really important. Yeah. So one of the things that I feel like I noticed in a lot of the artists, and it kind of goes into, overcoming that belief, or not even necessarily like overcoming it, but kind of like reframing it for yourself that, okay, if I don't have a strong imagination, that's just something to work with. That's just something, and it can be a strength in certain situations, like you said, like in the first half of the season, everyone gets to have, sources kind of clearly defined. And if you make it to the second half of the season, then then you're kind of on your own and you have to come up with things, and, the challenges are not necessarily up to you. Right. Well, I mean, the challenges are more loose in the second half of the season, less clearly defined, let's say. But one of the things that I noticed that really made a difference, and each artist kind of went through their own progressions, which is so fascinating, and really such an honor to be able to like capture and get to share that, but was discovering their own thick skin. Like there was a moment in there when, Linda, I teased Alexis, and then Linda made the comment, and it was like, whoa, what, but that's just a highlight and, an example of discovering your own thick skin within the context of this season. Are there any like moments for you guys in the first, 3 episodes that have aired, let's say, that you feel like you can remember helped you discover your own thick skin?
Well, I would say just with the judging, it's funny, like I'm the first to admit my first painting and my first source, if I had it to do all over again, that's not what I would paint. But Ellie remarked, I was so careful about using a photo that I had taken myself. And so that, that's sort of like an important thing to me, is that authenticity. And I used my color palette. And so, okay, the execution was really bad. But when Ellie said, looked AI and the proportions are off, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it was my bad choice to use a peahen. So they're not aesthetically the most pleasing, but I don't know. I think they're cool. And that just shows my nerdiness that she said something about the AI. I was like, oh, okay, I know that it's a real source, and that and I lined it up later over to just see it. And I'm like, yep, no, my proportions are on. And then the other thing was, like, I painted the chimp, and one of the judges said something that my proportions of the hand are off. And I'm like, it's a chimp, it's not a human. Their fingers are like, and anyway, I just had to, like, what? It's how the art is perceived. It's not, so it's not a judgment on me, or, it's a judgment on the painting, and does it make a good painting? And my first one did not make a good painting. But I have learned to just, like, okay, it's not about me. It's about, and I need to make better choices. If I want to sell art, I need to be making wise choices about it. But if people don't buy a painting, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. And, so.
Yeah. And it also doesn't necessarily mean that the painting wasn't good too.
Yeah.
It could just be that the right person didn't see it yet.
Right. Right.
One thing that's interesting that I just want to point out too that you touched on was, the judges and seeing like that, the chimps proportions maybe were right, but the judges thought that they were wrong. And that was a real struggle that we went through in terms of from just a filming and a process perspective, trying to determine whether or not the judges should be able to see the sources, because we kind of went back and forth on this. Like, should the judges judge according to the source, or should they judge like without the source? And it's so hard because on the one hand, if they judge according to the source, then it's like, then you're not just judging based on the painting, you're judging based on the source selection, you're judging based on, so like what is like the true, what is most true to, well, first, what is the best way to judge art? That's difficult. That's a whole challenge itself. But second, like what's the best way to show or to have the judges look at the art and score it? Is it, because a normal person, when they see a painting in a gallery, they don't see the source next to the painting, right? So should we have the judge? But also, a lot of collectors aren't looking at art in midway through either. So, that was a tough thing to balance. And I'm really curious for all the artists watching this in the chat, like, do you think that the judges should judge according to the source, or maybe critique according to the source? I think that's kind of what we landed at, is like during the critiques, but then I can't remember. There's so many things to keep track of, right? But I'm curious what the artists in the chat think. So we have some saying judge without the source, without seeing the source.
I kind of agree with
Liberties with the
them,
source.
to be honest.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying, Tanya?
I kind of agree with them, like judging without the source, because I feel like, and personally, I feel like, yes, we should give a little feedback, but like full in-depth critique, I'm not sure about. Because in the end, like I was saying in the beginning, I think you want to see the artist's voice come out, like what they can do from, what they know and what they feel is right. So at one point, I feel like everything we were saying was kind of diluting like their opinion or like what they wanted to do next on their painting. So I don't know, but
I don't know. I don't know if I fully agree, because I mean, I agree that the artist shouldn't just paint for the judge necessarily. Like there's a strategy behind that too, right? Like, understanding who is judging and what are their preferences. Like, yeah, that's strategy, that's like understanding the rules of a game that you're playing. But at the same time, I don't know if the judges should hold back next season, because it's like, I think part of, what makes an outstanding artist is being able to select from what the judges recommend.
True. Yeah, I agree.
And like, okay, you have all this information, like getting all the information, and even if the judges are wrong, because you guys aren't perfect too, like no one is able to give perfect critique, so it's like, what do I want to select from the judges to take and implement in the process, and that's what we were talking about before, discernment. But I do totally agree that you don't, like, if the artist just becomes too persuaded by the judge and the judge's feedback, then it's not as much fun to watch. It doesn't feel as authentic, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. They should like be able to take what, they want from the feedback and then apply it if they want to, but like, have all the feedback from everyone is good in a way, because
Tanya, tell me more about like your journey as a judge, and like just coming off of season 3, being a finalist. Sorry, spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen season 3, but another reason to watch it. But tell me about like the experience and transitioning from contestant on the show to judge on the show, and like what was that like for you?
that was honestly a bit hard, because I fell for these people. I was, and we didn't know whose painting was who, so that helps. I have to say that helped, because that didn't influence anything. But I felt really like stressed, especially in the first few episodes, and you guys probably saw it, because like I was really careful with what I was saying because I was in your shoes, you know, Bianca and Stephanie and all the other contestants. So I knew how such a big impact it could have, you know, on them, the feedback we were giving. So I think that's why we hold back a little bit, especially in the first few episodes. But yeah, that was a roller coaster of emotion, I have to say. Just also seeing them, you know, after the critique or like, you know, at dinner, and then we had to deal with all those kind of awkward situation. But I really did my best to stay, you know, to go with my gut feeling and just try to appreciate the art, appreciate like the technique they've done. So but yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotion for sure.
Watching back the last episode, where did you watch episode
Yeah,
2? Yeah, watching it back, what were there any like choices that you like didn't agree with that you made at the time? Like, okay, for example, what I'm specifically talking about was Jodie's
I
bird.
know what you're
A
talking
lot of
about.
people, a lot of people disagreed with your choice there.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it happens, you know, in the moment, it was really, I felt really strong about that choice. I have maybe some difficulties to explain it right now because it's, you know, we filmed it some months ago, but in the moment, it was really my choice, and I feel like I have to stick with it, you know. Looking back, maybe there was other painting that I would have ranked differently. But you know, Jodie was ranked super high for all the other judges, so it didn't have such an impact, I think, you know. And I'm sorry if it has, you know, but it's kind of part of the game in a way. I'm feeling bad right now, but
Don't
um,
feel bad. No, I'm not. That's not my intent. I'm just curious.
it's kind of part of the game is what I think I want to say here. Like, you know, sometimes I think even in my season there was some judging sometimes that we didn't understand, you know. So it's just something that happens. But in the moment I have to say that I felt really strong about my ranking. This is how I felt in the moment looking at all the paintings, you know, side by side. And yeah, I mean
Yeah. Well, and I think it just speaks to, you know, the difficulty of being the pressure, let's say, of being a judge, because
yeah.
you know, obviously it's different from being a contestant, you know, and that like, what if I fail? But as a judge, you're like, what if I fail the artist, you know? And like, what if I fail? And that's a huge pressure as well. Like, what I'm a steward of like the results, and you know, like, what if I choose wrong? That's like a big stress. And I remember you guys after the you know, after judging, just the the weight of the responsibility, you know, and the feeling that came with it. And I mean, myself, even just watching you guys toil over, you know, did I do this right? And like, you know, double, triple, quadruple checking, and you know,
And I
it's
think
a
it's
real
happening
challenge.
again in future episodes as well, where we have like big difference in our judging, but we're like, you know, it is what it is. I mean,
But I think that just goes to show you how subjective that art is,
yeah,
you
Yeah.
know, what, and why it's important to have more than one judge. I think it's tough that, you know, I have experienced some places, you know, where there's like contests where there's like one judge and it's like, well, they're judge, jury, and, you know, and it really, if they're not, you know, if they're not looking at like the elements of art or what, you know, it's just personal, you know, your personal biases can really affect it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Just want to
Completely agree.
add, Jody, I love you, and your painting was super beautiful. It wasn't about like,
It wasn't personal.
it wasn't personal
Like,
at all.
Well, it never
makes,
is personal. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Right, right.
yeah.
That's a big thing. I mean, if you get critiqued, I found that I didn't find that very difficult. If I got
Yeah.
critiqued, I never took it personally. I just took the critique looked at it and then figured out how can I make it better and how can I learn from this, and don't take it personal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important as an artist in general and like developing thick skin. Was there a moment for you, just going back to that question, Bianca, that or Stephanie, did you want to add something? Seemed like you
I was
wanted
just
to.
going to say for the students that are watching this, you know, if you're getting the coaching and mentoring feedback and critiques, just listen, because what we are sharing with you, it's just our ideas. And and again, we have biases, and if you have 4 coaches that leave you feedback, you might be like, oh my gosh, they have said 4 different things, now what do I do? And so you are the artist. It is ultimately your judgment and what you think is best for the piece. And yes, some people might have some more experience, and they might see something that you just didn't see, but it doesn't mean, that you have to take the feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's great advice. Bianca, back to you. Thick skin. Was there a moment for you where you feel like that stands out to you about that, and developing your own in episodes 1, 2, or 3?
What are you talking about? Critique? Sorry, I don't get it. What do you mean?
Oh, like just in kind of developing your own resilience, let's say, or like, um, just confidence.
Yeah, well, I think what I just was talking about, that to not take it personal, that it's with critiques and also like the results, and then I'm not talking about scoreboards, but like your own result, like what you just made. It doesn't say something, it doesn't mean that you're a bad artist or a good artist or a bad person or a good person, or it's just about art. And this the outstanding artist is it's an isolated thing, so to say. It's like you're in this bubble, you're making art with 11 other artists, all sorts of things happen. You have to make art that is normally not what you would make at all, like the last thing you would sometimes even. You do it anyway, you try your best, and then yeah, I don't know, that was a really big thing for me, like it doesn't define you as a person, and not even as an artist in general. It defines you as the artist you are when you are competing at the outstanding artist.
In
It's
this
a totally different
context.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What
that
did
was
you
a
want to
big
add?
thing.
What were you adding, Tanya?
Oh, I was just saying in this context, because it's also like you have a really limited amount of time to do your painting, which, usually in the studio we have, all the time we want. So it's also that the pressure of like looking around, there's other people that you're kind of ranking them in your head. Like I remember doing that in my season. So there's also that comes into play as well. So.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so one of the viewers, I have the live chat up here too, in case you're wondering like what I'm looking at over here. One of the viewers, Salavi Skin Ritual, wants to know, how can you not take a personal critique personal? I need to learn this.
It's not personal. It's not like they say, you're not a very pleasant person to be around, or that would hurt me. That would
Yeah.
really hurt me. But if somebody says something about art that I make, I don't know. It doesn't enter me. I listen to it, I hear it, and but that's it. It doesn't hurt ever.
Yeah, it's like a skill that you have to develop, and detaching yourself, separating yourself from the work that you create, and even
Like,
myself, like with watching the show, looking at the comments, like in a lot of ways, like this is my art, you know, putting this show together. And it's like, you know, I have to look at the comments and detach myself from the show and try to think objectively, like, are the comments constructive? Are they helpful in actually yielding a better show in the future? Like, will taking this advice, and like also, I think another really, really important you know, piece of advice that I would give to any artist is consider the source of the critique too, and understand what are the biases of the person, and what is the validity of the source too. Like, is this a person who understands this specific skill set really well? Do they know what it takes to render an eye super realistically? Does this person have a pattern of creating art with excellent composition? Do they, you know, have really amazing color stories? And even if it's like Ellie, for example, like maybe you look up to Ellie in terms of, you know, the way that she creates glow and her dynamic compositions, but maybe, just maybe, and this might be heresy, no, I'm just kidding, but maybe you don't love her color stories, you know, like you're like, I think Ellie's an amazing artist, but her color stories aren't exactly what I love for my own, and that's not my taste. So if she critiques me based on color story, I'm not necessarily going to take that to heart, you know. But if it's a critique in terms of, you know, composition, or if it's a critique in terms of like specific technique or skill or glow, or, you know, basically everything else in art, just kidding, then I'll listen to it, you know. So I think that's a really important, you know, that's, at least for myself, that's how I try to weigh feedback that I receive, and not just in the show, but in business, you know, and marketing, and anything really. It's like, how credible is the source of the feedback that I'm receiving? Yeah, Stephanie.
I think one of the things that you're going to find is, so my art tends to be bright. I have, in an art fair, I can hear, it's open air, people walk by, and one person's like, oh, and then literally the next person comes up, person comes up and she's like, your colors, their life, they're so, oh my God. And so you just have to find your people, you know, so your art is not for everyone, and that's okay. You don't want to be for everyone. You don't want to have such bland, insipid, you know, art and try to please everyone. So if you can sort of take that to heart, that, you know, there's a time when, you know, there are critiques that are helpful, and like Jake is saying, you know, to consider the source and that can make your art better. But everybody's a critic, you know, everybody has an opinion, and just, you know, you have your own opinions about the world, and you don't love everyone else's art out there. So just try to remember that for yourself, and that's how you can stop taking it so personally, because it's not about you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I
so
think,
good.
yeah, I think the more you do shows and you put your work on there and you hear those comments that sometimes, because I got it too, you know, Stephanie, a comments like that where somebody entered my tent and they were like, "Whoo, it's bright here," and they just like left, you know, and I was like, okay, cool, you know? But they're just not your people, like Stephanie said. I really, this has become sort of a mantra, you know, if somebody doesn't like your art or is telling you weird things about your art, just tell yourself that they're not your people. They probably don't understand your vision, or if they want to speak more about it, maybe you can try to explain your vision, and that will make them understand, you know, what was your intention, what is your story as an artist, and that can make a difference. But if somebody is just like, this is bad, you know, I don't like it. Okay, good, you don't like it. You know, I'm gonna continue painting. That doesn't matter. And you will find so many other people that relates to it. So I think over time, it's something that you build also with your confidence, you know, as an artist.
That's really good.
So
So
true.
another, oh, did you guys want to add something to that?
No, about the whole thing that it's in that way, it's personal, that it's taste. It's a matter of taste. What's my taste isn't your taste, and that's all. That's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
We don't all have the same taste, luckily.
Yeah, luckily, exactly. It would be a very bland art world.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of taste, so someone asked, Heather Boyd Wire wants to know, do you think judges have prejudices to certain subject matter? For example, cliched imagery or cliched subject matter? Curious, what do you guys think in this season? And Tanya, as a judge.
I mean, we probably all have, things we love more than others. I guess, it probably comes into the play at one point. I do feel like I was really trying to not put my taste in the judging, like to really set that apart and to really judge from the element of art, from the technique, from, really going with that so it doesn't interfere too much. But yeah, we all, like me, Alana, Ellie, Asia, we all do different type of art. We all paint different subject matter. So of course, I guess at one point, you know,
Good, how are you? I'm live, just
oh,
FY. Sorry.
but I think it's just part of it. Again, like if you look at other competition in art, there's probably also judged that all or how different, And I think that's what spice things up a little bit as well, You don't want people that love all the same thing or, that doesn't have, I don't know, subject matter that they don't, I don't know. So to me, it feels like it's just something that's part of it.
Yeah, I think that's why it was important to us to have 4 judges too. And I mean, all the judges, everyone on the show, all of it is a part of, like all of us have these common threads too. Like all of us have, some propensity towards abstract realism because of the mastery program. And, maybe Stephanie a little bit less, but I feel like you've carved out a really unique version of abstract realism where it's like definitely much more towards the representation of the realism, but there's, you found this amazing style of like finding what to abstract, which is really cool. But that being said, like I think it is so important to have some variety in terms of it's tough because you want variety in opinions, but you also want commonality in terms of like values, I would say, and like what because if you have too much variety in terms of judging, then you don't really, at least when you have like a smaller group of judges, I think probably maybe it wouldn't even be the most fair. See, this is like such a complicated subject. So my thought was that I was going to say is maybe the most fair judging would be like completely like public judging all the which would be technically impossible to do with the show, just in like, because you can't move forward until it's judged. So it would have to all be live, which that would be like, that would not be possible. But anyways, maybe that would be the most fair version of judging. But then on the other hand, to some degree, this might shun me because, this is people watching. I'm talking about the people who are watching right now. But to some degree, you have to say that there are people with better judgment than me when you're watching something in a specific given domain. And so do you want the average to determine, like the masses to determine, or do you want sort of a more meritocracy, a meritocratic approach to judging, where people who have demonstrated through certain skills and, certain lived experiences have demonstrated that they have the merit to be a judge, which is sort of why we've decided to go with, okay, previous contestants plus Ellie or Dimitra, or let's say previous finalists or winners on the show plus Ellie and Dimitra, are going to be judges moving forward. And then in the second half of the season, you'll see the artists will see Dimitra does become a judge. I'm excited for everyone to see that. And we also have a guest judge, as well as our gallery director Jock is a judge as well. So the judging, kind of dynamic changes then too. So I don't know. I think it's hard to say like what the right answer is in terms of like how do you judge art, something, as you said before, Stephanie, that is very subjective. How do you try to make it objective, right? And I don't think you can perfectly, but I think you can like isolate some things and make it a little bit more objective than, you know, maybe just one person choosing their favorites. Yeah. Stephanie, tell us about where you're at right now.
Where I am in terms of
I just meant like location, because
location.
you know, you had
Sorry, I'm like mentally, physically, like I
Where are you, like,
am
spiritually right now?
in the Sopa Gallery.
Awesome.
So, Bianca, look at these lovely ladies.
Oh, look at that.
So anyway, yes, but it is, so the windows are being washed currently, and Brandon just came in a little bit ago to take some photos. And so it's a little bit of so sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah. No, that's okay. And just for anyone who's curious, if you are in the Sarasota area, Sarasota, Tampa, Bradenton, you know, Fort Myers area, Stephanie's actually teaching classes at our gallery now. So you can come learn in person with Stephanie if you are, you know, if you like that sort of thing, which you probably do if you're watching this right now. And so if you're in the area, come check it out. But okay, so I am curious if you guys had one piece of advice to give to artists, and it can't be something that's already been said. I mean, we've talked a lot about, like, you know, developing thick skin. We've talked about, like, not taking critiques too personal. Let's kind of focus more on, like, the introspective side or the environmental side. Like, what advice, and when I say environmental, I mean like the outside, your external world that you're living in when you're there on the show, and on set and behind the scenes and all the things. What piece of advice would you give to prospective outstanding artists, contestants, so people who want to be on the show in the future?
Personally, I would say you don't know how nerves are going to affect you, and I was surprised that I had a hard time sleeping. I had a really hard time making decisions about sources, and you know, focusing in a way. And so just thinking ahead of time, like, how would you deal with those things? How are you, you know, how are you going to set yourself up best to, and just to be able to cope with that?
That's really good.
And you just don't know, like, I thought the hardest thing was going to be painting on camera. And the painting, once you're there, as I can attest, you just get in your head and you just start going, and you're, at least for me, the painting itself, and I tried to break it down time-wise for certain tasks and things, but that wasn't, like, I forgot about the cameras when we were painting. It's the external pressures that I think I was surprised about.
Yeah. So, and just to clarify too, for anyone who might be confused there, you get in your head, meaning like you lock in, you're focused when you're painting. But it's that anticipation that is so difficult. It's like, you know, leading up to it, almost with anything really, the anticipation is like more intense than the actual act. It's like all of the potentialities, you know, everything that could happen that makes it so scary. And I would say, like, rightfully so. Like, there are so many different potential outcomes and scenarios for not only like the whole show, but each individual episode, you know, each individual section of the challenge, each interview after, like, what if I say something stupid and they use it, you know?
Well, I think if I can just say really quickly, so there was a statement of mine that got taken out of context. So you had asked me a question, and you had said, "Who do you think is going to win this? Who's going to win?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. Everybody's so good." So minus the question, it looks like I'm sitting here whining like, "Oh, everybody's so good." So I can only control, like, I can control myself and my painting, but you can't, the rest of it, you can't control, and you can't control the spin, and you can't control the narrative. And so you just I guess, again, it goes back to that, just sort of developing a thick skin and just learning, like, to be humble. And like, this is not, whatever, however it comes out, this is not, it may not reflect who I am, and it may not reflect honestly my art or my personality or anything. And the camera adds 20 pounds, by the way, just FYI. Thank you.
It is all about the angle. The angle was too low for the interview camera. It was, and then you kind of like sat back like this.
Oh,
like,
it was terrible. That chair, that you should burn that
I said
chair.
something to the editor, and yeah, the chair was not the right choice. Like in terms of
Do you notice how I'm sitting now? Upright. I'm like dark shirt.
forward, back, forward.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because if you know if you're sitting back like this, it's just not gonna be good for you.
Sorry.
That's on me. I should have been like, "Hey, Stephanie, you might want to lean forward," but I was like too focused on the questions.
Well, and that's like that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many things that you're not in control of, and then like whichever picture they use for the
for the
promo, I'm like, really, that's the one? Okay. So I'm just going with it and just laughing at myself and like whatever, you know. I am the banner for the middle-aged women out there. Let me just say, I am the poster child. This is.
Oh no, your camera just went off.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know what
no.
happened there, Stephanie. You might have clicked the cam button.
I didn't touch anything.
Oh no.
She doesn't want to be seen anymore. That's over.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, I think my hand reaction did something. I said
Oh,
like stop.
interesting.
So
Huh.
yeah. Anyway, sorry, I got a little excited there.
No, that's okay. That's good. What about you, Bianca? What advice would you give?
Okay, well, there are certain things, certain skills that, I mean, you cannot change your skills overnight, like somebody else, can't remember who said in one of the episodes. But what you can do is practice some things like painting, speed painting, like time yourself up front. You can practice that. You can really practice that because that's a big thing. Like we're not used to looking on the clock the whole time. So I don't know, when people ever ask me, so how long does it take for you to make a painting? I never know what to say. How would I know?
30 years. Been 30 years in the making.
Yeah, exactly. You can say that, of course. But timing yourself is a big help. So I did that before the show at home as preparation and practicing your perspectives. So like drawing, painting from sources and not use a projector or anything, just to practice yourself with perspective. That's very helpful. And another thing, be prepared for curveballs. Jake. So don't freak out when you think something is going in a certain way and then it just changes the other way.
Yeah, that's a good one. Expect the unexpected, you know?
Expect the unexpected. Yeah,
I mean,
and just go with it.
My Spotify playlist is literally called Unexpected Fresh. I mean, what do you expect? You know? That's what I like to listen to on a daily basis. You know?
Yeah.
But I think what you're getting at there on a bigger picture too is like understand what is in my control and what's not in my control. Like figure out like what can I control going into this challenge. And both of you guys talked about it. Like Stephanie, you're like, how can I prepare myself mentally for the actual anticipation, for the actual mental part of this competition? And you know, understanding like how can I prepare myself so that at night I'm actually able to fall asleep well? Like what are maybe, and this is like a legitimate thing, like what are some like breathing techniques that I can look into? Or is there a specific, you know, playlist that I can like create associations for myself that when I listen to this playlist, it takes me into, you know, a calmer state and I'm able to then fall asleep and like shut off my brain, right? I have that problem a lot, like you know, even like nights before lives sometimes, or, you know, any like, you know, typically like public facing things, you know, I'm I have a hard time sleeping sometimes because in my mind I'm like going through all the potential scenarios of like how could this turn out? What are the things that I could say? What are the, you know, how could another person potentially respond? I think a lot of people go through this, you know, and in terms of just are not being able to shut off your brain, and maybe it's just me, I don't know, but figuring out ways to overcome that. It's like, because sleep is actually so important. And I just saw this study about Olympics, and like people who have jet lag, so like if they have to travel further, actually some gold medalists it could be the difference between a gold medal and a silver medal in terms of like between getting first place and second place in physical performance. And if you think painting's any different, you're wrong. It's not. Painting, this is the Olympics of painting. Like this is like this is it's a lot of emotional toil, and it's not just over in a couple weeks. It's 6 weeks in its entirety, if you make it all the way to the end, and it's nonstop. It's like we are literally filming 6 days a week with 1 day break, and even on that day break you're going to have to be making sources and planning what you're going to be doing, reviewing what didn't go well. And so it's a big challenge. It can be really stressful. And then on the other hand, like you said, like you were, getting at, Bianca, like understanding what can you control, what can I practice, what can I, skills can I develop, so that when push comes to shove, I'm not having to think through the lesson that I watched and, refer back to it in my conscious memory, but I've developed the skill to a point where it is unconscious ability. It is, unconscious comprehension. And I think that is so important. Like if you really want to be, a top competitor, and I'm just a really competitive person, so these are the things that I think through as well. So like, you can also, pull a Lisa and say, like what, I want to have fun, and that's important too. Like
she's the Alicia Liu of paintings.
Yeah,
the figure skater that's just the gold.
Yeah, totally. Like how can I just show up and enjoy myself, because that's what will put me in the peak performance state, being in a state of joy and fun, and Jody's talked about that too. It's so good.
It was
I love
actually
it.
super helpful for especially Lisa, who is so like, fuck it. It's all good. And at the end of the day, it's just a game, and, vibes like that. But it was, for me, it was super helpful to like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, because it helps to put things into perspective and to not
yeah.
let it get ahead of you or something.
Totally. My opinion is like stress as hard as you possibly can before, so that you can show up and be relaxed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Totally kidding, but I mean, kind of. Who
Well, it
knows?
sort of
I don't even
happened to
know.
me.
I was kind of this person on my season. I don't know if you remember, Jake, but after the
Yeah.
all-nighter, everyone was crying and I was laughing.
Yeah.
And I was like having fun and finished my painting like 2 hours earlier.
Yeah,
Um,
you were.
but I think it's really about, if you want to be on the show, you have to do it for yourself, really. You have to do it for, proving. Maybe you have to prove yourself some things. Maybe you just want to get out of your comfort zone. Like if I think about myself, going to Greece was my first time I took the plane ever in my life. It included so many like things that I had to get out of my comfort zone. Leaving my boyfriend for like an entire month, it was a big thing for me. But you have to really do it for yourself and for the good reason. Like, don't do the show if you just have your eyes on the cash. That's not gonna that's not gonna work. You have to be there to bond with the other artists. I remember having such incredible conversation with the other girls on the show, and I've learned so much from them as well. And from my time on the show. So I think you have to do it for the good reason, like really asking yourself, am I doing it for myself to really grow as an artist and to come out of this, even like, I don't know, bigger or like stronger, in a way. So, yeah.
Such a great
Yeah,
point.
I totally agree. That's, probably the most poignant of all. It's like, do
Yeah.
it for yourself. That's really good. I love that. And you were such a fun person. I remember in the interviews and in Greece and you know, just like, yeah, nah, you know, I'm just having fun.
But I was really having fun. I mean, I was really having fun and like, yes, I wanted to win. And especially when I did come back, I was like, you know, all these expectations. But at the same time, I was like, it's a chance to be here. Like, it's like Bianca said in the beginning, it's a in a lifetime opportunity. So you have to make the most out of it. So I was like, I'm not gonna, you know, cry or like be in the big emotion. I just want to have fun and make the best painting I can do. And in the end, you know, whatever happens, gonna happen. So, and I don't have a control on that. So it comes back to what you were saying, you know, about what you can control or not.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, we have a few questions. I just noticed that our you know, marketing managers been so helpful and curated some of these questions for me in my little document here. So I'm gonna ask some of the questions. We'll go through them quickly from the live chat, and then we'll wrap this up. So so the first question was, does art feel like self-care to anyone else? I just realized this recently. So like, to you guys, what do you guys feel like it is self-care?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's therapy. It's more than self-care.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I need it.
It was
People are
self-care
saying-
first.
What were you saying, Stephanie?
It was self-care first. That's, I mean, for 30 years, that was the thing that I did before I took the mastery program. That was one of the things that I did to, you know, for enjoyment, stress, peace of mind, sanity, all of it. That was my happy place.
It's so ironic too, because there's like, we're talking about a reality competition show, and like, you know, the thing that is self-care can also be, but you know what? Sorry, I was going to say a source of stress, right? Like when you put it in a certain context, in a certain environment, it can be like, you know, the greatest source of stress. But I also feel like too much, I know that there is bad stress, and most people, when they use the word stress, refer to it in the negative. But I also think that there's good stress, and there's good stretching, there's good challenge, and you know, and limitations even. Like we want to not have limitations on ourselves ever, but actually sometimes it can be really useful as a tool. And you know, I feel like it is a form of self-care that you guys all did by coming on to the show to some degree, you know, because it's like, I care about myself enough to put myself in this difficult environment to grow, because you can only grow so much in an incubator. You know, like when you're a potted plant, you can only grow to the size of the pot that you're in, but eventually you need a bigger container. You need, or no container whatsoever. You need to be planted in the ground outside, and it actually exposed to the forces of nature. And like, and then, you know, the wind will help you grow stronger, and you know, the storms that plow you, you know, that push you over, will actually help you develop you know, better roots, and you'll actually become the full tree, the full mighty oak tree that, you know, you're destined to become. So anyways, it's just I don't know, it's just like a little realization I had about, like, you know, self-care in the delicate sense, but then also there is self-care and you know, the intensity too. And I think that it's important to keep in mind also contextually, like, when do I need that delicate self-care versus like, when do I need the intensity of the outstanding artist for myself? Glad you guys were all ready. Okay, great question. Oh, this is a fun question, behind the scenes. I have a question. Do you think the judges recognize some of the artists by seeing only the paintings? Can they tell from the voice who it was who painted the pictures? Tanya?
There were some
There's
that
a right answer and there's a wrong answer. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I mean, I would would say it was really depending on the challenge, but yes, there was some painting we kind of knew based on the style of the person, of like, like the mark making, the elements that were in. Uh, but we were trying to make, again, abstraction of that and just not, and we didn't know also all the other paintings of that person or the drawings of that person. So but the short answer is yeah. Yes, sometimes.
Okay, so
But I
Colleen
heard some
said,
guessing and they were wrong about some of them too.
True, yeah.
Yes.
We
Okay,
were
so
also
that's what I wanted to
guessing
point
in that. Yeah.
Colleen said, yes, of course. I bet Ellie can tell everyone's art. And actually, you would be shocked. So
Yeah.
after every round of judging, we polled all the judges to see who, because they were already guessing. And I was like, stop guessing, stop telling each other. But then I was like, well, wait, I'm curious. Whose do you think this is? Whose do you think that is? And then we went through and we asked each of them. I didn't tell them, like all the crew knew, and we were all just like listening. We're like, oh, really? And they would get maybe 4 out of 12 right. That was like about the average. 4 to 5 out of 12 they would get right. And that's the real behind the scenes of what actually happened, and in terms of could the judges guess. And with the paintings, I would say it was easier for them to guess. Like that was when they were getting like 4 to 5. With the drawings, almost no one. They could almost, it was because there's less identifiers. Like okay, some artists use specific colors on a repeated basis, and that's just their go-to no matter what they're painting, and so it's easier to see and tell their style based off of the colors, right? But when you take the colors away and it's just charcoal or it's just graphite, it's kind of harder to tell. So that's the reality. Okay, outside of the painting challenges, this is a great question. What was the biggest challenge you faced off camera? Stephanie.
I think
Actually, maybe. Well,
I'm
no
not giving
spoilers. No
no
spoilers.
spoilers. Can I say about the living arrangements?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
They had us in 2 different houses, and I thought that was really difficult because the houses developed sort of 2 different personalities, and one house was they were all eating together, and then one house everybody had different food issues, and so we made our own food, and it felt like team A and team B. And personally, that I felt, it's that FOMO thing, and I think some of the, as things unfold, it would have been better to have us all in one place. And
Yeah.
I agree
totally
about that. Yeah. I feel it the exact same way as you do.
Yeah. That was the biggest off-camera challenge for you too.
Yeah.
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 Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, what was your reaction when you learned you were going to be on the Outstanding Artist? Actually, let's start with Tanya. What was your reaction when I asked you to be a judge?
I don't know if you remember, but I said no at first.
Go away.
I mean, it was just, but then I come back at night, after I spoke to my boyfriend, and he was like, "What? You said no? What the heck?" Like, just, write back to him and say yes. But it was just, I think I was just scared, honestly. I was scared to leave. I was scared to take the plane. I was scared to go to Greece. And, when I did the Outstanding Artist, it was like, maybe a year after I completed the mastery program. So for me, it wasn't that long, I didn't have this much experience. So I was like, am I going to be able to do that? So that just like brought a lot of self-doubt. But then I was like, yeah, let's do it, and then started to kind of shift my mindset. I just had, I think, to talk to my family and my, close friend about it. And they made me realize that it was such a big opportunity and I couldn't say no like you Bianca, it's something you just can't say no. You have to say yes, and you have to push your limits in a way. So, and I'm so glad I said yes after. And I remember writing back to you, and I was like, I'm so afraid they found somebody else already, you know. But yeah, my gut reaction was like, "Whew, am I ready for this?" But I don't know if you ever feel ready for something like that. Like it's really something you just have to jump in and experience, you know. And just like we said, you know, during that live, like do it for yourself, do it for the people you're gonna be around, like the whole experience, you know, traveling, stuff like that. So yeah, that was my first reaction.
Honestly, I thought at first you were talking about being a judge. I was like, I don't remember you saying no
Oh
on the.
no! Oh, were you talking about being a judge on the
No, well,
show?
that's great too. I was asking for this season.
Oh,
What
okay.
was your reaction to being asked to be a judge?
Oh, I was
Too.
so
But
honored. I was so
yeah.
honored that you asked me. I was like, you know, and along with Asia and Alana and Ellie, I mean, you know, these are all my friends. Ellie has been my mentor. I mean, I was just so honored to be a judge on the show and to get to experience this incredible like situation again and to be part of it in a way, you know. So yeah, so happy.
Okay, follow-up question. How is judging different, like from what you thought it was gonna be? Like did you have like any expectation of how it was versus what ended up being reality?
I mean, I don't know if I had any expectation because I've never been a judge in my life other than that. So I was kind of, you know, going with the flow with everything. I wish we did have more time to judge though, but you know, that's little detail. But in a way, yeah, that just, you know, that was a really good experience overall. And I would redo it, you know, I would jump back in, you know, either being a contestant or being a judge again. I would do both again for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you guys in terms of like, what was your reaction when you found out you were gonna be on the show?
Well, I found it out when I was on holiday in Kenya. I was on a safari. So I was in a totally different world when I heard that I was on the show. So it didn't immediately hit, like, because it felt a bit unreal because I was doing something completely different. But yeah, super excited and I already felt the nerves and I was like, no, I'm not going there now. I'm here in Kenya. I'm doing the safari, all these wild animals and blah blah blah. I was like, no, I'm not going to be nervous for something else. It can wait till I'm back. So, but I was thrilled that I was on the show immediately, of course.
Hmm, that's awesome. What about you, Stephanie?
Yeah, I was just super excited. I was really excited for the challenge. And at this point in my life, you know, I'm seeking adventure, but I want to do it. I don't want to go skydiving, and I'm not seeking that kind of adventure. So it's like a safe, you know, what better way to, you know, challenge yourself and you know, grow. And so I was really excited for the opportunity. And of course, the nerves are like, oh my God, what did I just sign myself up for? But you know, Demetra put that quote out the other day. What are you going to do with this one precious life? Something she put on her dreamers thing. I forget who said that quote, but anyway, it's just like, yeah, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So why say no? You know, I had to say yes.
Mm, that's awesome. I'm glad you all said yes. All of our lives are forever changed, for mine included. So, okay, so next time on the Outstanding Artist, next time, just kidding. You guys have no idea what it's like to do that voiceover by myself in my garage. To channel the level of energy that you need to have to do voiceover, because it's like so much of communication is reading lips, actually. And so when you don't have, like, when you take away the visual and you can't see the person, then, you know, the amount of emotion that you have to use in order to express what you would be expressing with your eyes and your face, you know. It's anyways, it's a fun new skill that I have been enjoying working on.
You're doing such a great job.
Can I
Yeah.
just delay this by 1 minute and ask you really quickly, Jake, what
Yeah.
was it like for you to have everybody like, Jake, get out of my face? Not now, not now, Jake. Like, how is that on your personal, like, you
Rejection.
take that
skill.
personally? Do you,
It's hard to say exactly. It's hard to remember exactly, but I think that it's like, you know, I have so many thoughts going through my head at the same time when we're filming, because you know, there's this immense amount of pressure on me that's like, we're taking a lot, you know, investing a lot in making this happen. And so in the moment, I'm like, it's kind of like, what is going to, I never took any of it personally, to answer that specifically, but what was going through my head for some of those moments, I'm like, is this helping or hurting the story? It's like kind of like the question. And that's like, because ultimately it's not about me. It's not about like any one individual, unfortunately, sorry to say. It's not about like, it's about like, what is the story? And ultimately it's about the viewer and like the, you know, the end up the entire story of the show, and what is it like building towards, and what are the, you know, the little peaks and valleys along the way that are aiding to the story, and not necessarily like trying to create a story, but like what is the story that is naturally unfolding. And obviously there's like probably 50,000 different ways we could have edited the show, and you know, we absolutely could have you know, not clipped out Stephanie's comment out of context, right? But in the context of the story, it's like it makes the most sense, you know. And then we're like looking for some things that like aid the story in the specific moment, and then we have like artistic license too. We're like, okay, like, are we bending the truth here a little bit, or like, because I want it to be as close to the truth as possible, but it's like, you know, changing the color story on a source that you have, tweaking it here and there, you know. And then, okay, if I put reds in the shadows, how does that change the feeling of this painting versus putting blues in the shadows, you know? And so it's like you're using what is there, but then you're adding your own color. So anyways, I know that's a much more like in-depth answer than the question warranted, but the reality is I'm like constantly thinking on set, what is the story that's happening? Because I'm interviewing each one of you guys, and I'm like, I have each of your stories in my mind, and I'm trying my best to keep them, you know, at top of mind. And then, you know, when we're walking around and going to each of you guys, I'm like, okay, how does this fit what they said in the interview versus what this other person said about that person in the interview? So it's like, it's not simple, but it's like really so exciting and fun. I love it. Thank you, Stephanie. That was a great question.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, but next time on the Outstanding Artist, the competition takes another turn. So the artists actually face, I know we said the cityscape is like one of the most difficult challenges, but I think next week's challenge, you know, in episode 4, is the toughest fundamentals challenge yet. And if you guys can't remember, it's the hand and still life drawing combination. So the artists are going to be challenged to paint. I don't have a fruit in here, but I'm gonna hold this. You're holding a fruit in their hand, and they have to paint it from life all in one shot. They do not get a chance to fix it in their freestyle time. So it's the highest stakes challenge so far. It's the most difficult challenge so far, because think about holding your hand still for hours on end, and the cramp and the pressure and the timing. And some artists didn't hold it in the best way that they could have. And so we're going to see in this next episode, you know, if you want to learn how to go about doing a still life successfully, then you're going to want to tune into this next episode. And the pressure does not stop there, because in the next episode, another round of judging takes place, and the leaderboard starts to more settle into, you know, into the leaderboard becomes even more high stakes and high pressure. So it's definitely going to be a shift. Tensions rise for sure. Positions change in the leaderboard, and the competition gets even tighter. So and there's still the one looming question hanging in the air: who didn't follow the rules? So, or did they? I don't know. We'll find out on the next episode of The Outstanding Artist. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was so much fun getting to talk with you guys, and I'm excited for next week.
Thank you, Jake.
Thanks, Jake. Thank
Bye.
you. Good to see everyone. Bye.
See you guys.
Thank